Next, we'll take a look at adding and subtracting radicals. Think of this as combining like terms. Instead of looking for the same variable parts and then adding their coefficients and keeping the variable part, you're going to be doing basically the same thing, but you're going to be looking for terms that have the same radical part. You'll be adding or subtracting their coefficients and keeping the same radical part. So for this first example, I look at the three terms, root 2, root 5, and 6 root 2. All three of those individually have already been simplified, so I can't simplify any of those on their own. Now I would start looking for radical parts that are the same. The first and last term are like terms because their radical parts are root 2. So to put those together, if I have 2 of something and negative 6 of something, 2 plus negative 6 is 4. So those two combine to become 4 root 2. Now this root 5 didn't have a like term, so it's just going to stay there as a root 5. I can't put it together with the root 2 because they're not like terms. I would check one last time. 4 root 2 doesn't simplify, root 5 doesn't simplify, so this is as far as I can go. That's my final answer. For the second problem, it doesn't look at first as if you can simplify this. Root 3 and root 27 are not the same radical part. However, root 27 is not simplified. So what I'll do is I will simplify root 27. I'm going to leave the 4 root 3 alone because that's already simplified. But when I do a prime factorization with 27, I get 3 times 3 times 3. And I want to put those into terms of perfect squares so that I can simplify this. So that's the same thing as 3 squared times 3 times square root of 3. So square root of 3 squared times square root of 3 is the same thing as the square root of 27. And the square root of 3 squared, those are inverses, so that's just 3. And now I've got 4 root 3 minus 3 root 3. I keep the same radical part, so I keep the root 3, and I add or subtract, in this case subtract, the coefficients. 4 minus 3 is 1, so I get 1 root 3. Now, usually we won't write the 1, we would just write root 3. Sort of like how you wouldn't typically write 1x, you would just write x. So our answer for the second one is root 3.